Alright, moving along to lesson 18, we're going to talk about averages, and we're going to do a couple problems about that have to do with line graphs. Okay, average is a measure of central tendency. If you want to describe a group of numbers, okay, here's a group of numbers. We have Class A has 28 students in it, Class B has 27, Class C has 26, Class D has 31. So what is a number that can describe this group of numbers, 28, 27, 26, 31? One number that can describe is the average. Alright, so how do we find the average? Is that it will be one number that will describe this group of numbers. The algorithm that I'm sure you guys have learned before. If you haven't learned it before, this is your first time. Good for you. It's not too hard. All you have to do is you have to add these numbers. That's step one. Step one is add up. Okay? And then step two is to divide by the number of numbers. Okay? So let's do this. Add up. Step number one, add up. This is going to be 8 plus 7 is 15, plus 1 is 16, plus 6 is going to be 22. 2, carry your 2. 2 plus 2 is 4, plus 2 is 6, plus 2 is 8, and that will be 11. So you have 112 students total. So if you take 112 students and divide it between those four, how many classes are there? There's 4 classes. So step number one, we are done. Add up 112. Step number two, you divide by the number of numbers. And we have 1 number, 2 numbers, 3 numbers, 4 numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? So we're going to divide this number, 112, by 4. Okay? So that's step number 2. And when we get that, we're going to get 4 equal groups that we can put in these 4 classrooms. So 4 will go into 11 2 times. 2 times 4 is 8. Subtract. 11 minus 8 is 3. Bring down the 2. 4 will go into 32 8 times. 8 times 4 is 32. So they do divide evenly. So your average is 28. Alright, we can also use average to find the midway point in between two numbers. So if you have a number line, and say this is 14, and this is 104, and you want to find exactly halfway in between those two numbers. How you can do that is you basically find the average, because you have an equal number of numbers on this side of the middle. We'll put M for middle, and you have an equal number of numbers on this side. So let's go ahead and find the average of these two numbers. So the first step is to add up 104 plus 14. So that's going to be 118. Then the next step is to divide by the number of numbers, which we only have 2 numbers here. So that would be 118 divided by 2. 2 will go into 11 5 times. 10, subtract 1, bring down your 8. 2 will go into 18 9 times. 9 times 2 is 18. Okay, so we know the midway, or halfway in between 14 and 104, would be 59. So that would be your average or your midway point. Alright, so try to do this one by yourself. Find the midway point in between 27 and 49. If you want to, pause the video for a second and work on this, and then unpause it, and then you'll find the answer. Alright, welcome back. Let's go ahead and find the answer. Step 1 is add up 49 plus 27. 9 plus 7 is 16. Carry your 1. 4 plus 1, 5, 6, 7. So that'll be 76. We're going to take 76 and we're going to divide it by 2. 2 will go into 7 3 times. 3 times 2 is 6. Subtract. You're going to get 1. 2 will go into 16 8 times. So your midway point in between 27 and 49 is going to be 38. And that is also your average. All right, here's another set of numbers. Let's find out what in this set right here, what's an average or a number that would describe this set of numbers. So I'm going to go ahead and pause it and work on this by yourself for a second, and then unpause it and see if you get the right answer. Alrighty, if you add these numbers up, 27, 14, 32, 9, you're going to get 82. That's your first step. So add up. The next step is divide by number of numbers. So we're going to take 82 right there, and we're going to divide it by 4. Where did I get the 4? 1, 2, 3, 4 numbers. And when you divide that out, you're going to get 20 and 2/4, or the average for this number of numbers is 20 and a half. Alrighty, so the last thing that we have to talk about in this chapter is some line graphs. I made a little graph here, and these are years. Okay, so 2004, 2005, 6, 7, 8, so on and so forth. And these are the number of touchdowns, 2, 4, 6, 8. And I went by twos. So obviously, if I put a dot right here, that would mean he got 1 touchdown for that year. So we're going to chart out the number of touchdowns. TD stands for touchdown. Excuse me. That Larry Fitzgerald had per year. If you don't know who Larry Fitzgerald is, he's a really nice, classy guy on the Arizona Cardinals. If you're not a football fan, he's very nice. He actually has a restaurant. He likes cooking too. So he has a lot of different hobbies. He great guy. And he's been with Arizona Cardinals his entire career. So I really respect someone who stays true to their team. He'll be loved in Arizona forever because of that. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and chart out how many touchdowns he had. So his first year in 2004, he had 8 touchdowns. So in 2004, I'm going to put a dot at 8. Okay. 2005, he went up. In 2006, he went down. He had 6 touchdowns. So let's do a little line graph. In 2007, he had 10 again. In 2008, he had 12. In 2009, he had 13. In 2000, that was the year that they went to the Super Bowl and they lost to the Steelers. 2000 and where are we? 2009, 2010 is he had 6 touchdowns. Dropped a whole bunch there. In 2011, he had 8. So about there. In 2012, he had 4. In 2013, he jumped back up to 10. All right. So there's a couple different ways to look at this. When did Larry have the most touchdowns? It's very easy to see. In 2009, he had 13 touchdowns. When did he have the least amount of touchdowns? In 2012, he had 4 touchdowns. So that's when he had the least. But when did he make the largest jump in touchdowns? Okay, so that's a difference. What is the difference between this dot and this dot? The difference between these two, this one's 10 and this one's 8. The difference between these two is 2 touchdowns. He made 2 more in this year. Okay, so that wasn't a huge difference. Here goes 1, 6, and 10. This one's 6 and that's 10. What's the difference between those two? That's 4. He made 4 more in 2007 than he did in 2006. Okay? Here he had 12. So there's a difference of 2 in between those 2 years. Difference of 1 in between those years. This looks like the largest drop. He only had 6 here, so he went from 13 all the way down to 6. So that's a difference of 7, but that's a drop. We're looking for the largest increase. The largest increase would be these 2 years, because he had 4 and he jumped up to 10 the next year. So that would be an increase of 6, because 10 minus 4 is 6. All right, so that's about, I would say, in this year right here, that's where he made the hugest or the largest jump. And this really doesn't happen too often. Most careers, football careers, they start out low, they go up, they peak, and then they come down. Not a lot of football players go up, come down, and then go shooting back up like that. So Larry is a great guy and a great football player.